The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are speakers plus authors informing the audience. They do not reflect or represent views and opinions held by this podcaster. Due to the nature of broadcasting this podcast, it may contain a copyrighted entity of a person. This podcaster does not own any rights to this music and their content. This podcaster cannot be held accountable for any copyrighted content. This channel is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify, but not warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information. If there is a complaint about something, whether the content is being used incorrectly, please contact the podcaster directly before making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. Yo, what is up, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Next Chapter of Sports with your host, Yagüe, here along with Paquito. But unfortunately, Paquito is not here due to work commitments. Paquito, hermano, we miss you desde la distancia, hermano. You guys, please don't forget to follow our Instagram page. I've been telling you guys all the way to the wire as how the Bears have done it. I have told you guys about it, and I will keep repeating myself. Please don't forget to follow our Instagram page at the Next Chapter of Sports, and it is on Instagram. So, as Paquito would say, right, Augie? Yeah, that is so right. Let me just say, you guys, that I have another guest with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, with everybody else listening, we are back with episode 38. Can you guys believe it? We're already on 38 episodes. We're going, we keep growing, we grind, we work, and we work our tails off. Yes, yes, and yes. It's awesome to see how amazing, great, and impressive our work is becoming. So for today, you guys, I have with me an amazing guest. I mean, she knows her way around sports, am I right? So especially here in the windy city of Chicago. And for me, I would have to say that she is a powerhouse in the world of sports media, building an impressive career behind the mic and behind the scenes from sideline reporting and content creation, and to her current work now as a sports reporter slash anchor for NBC5 Chicago. So for those of you that live in Chicago, it's Channel 5. Remember that. It's Channel 5 on NBC. Whether she's interviewing athletes or mentoring the next generation of sports professionals, she brings authenticity. I was going to say authentic, but still the same. Energy and a deep love for the game. Get ready for some real talk about what it takes to grow in this media industry, the evolving role of women, which is huge. I'm an advocate of women in sports all the way in sports media, and how to stay true in your voice while building a career that really matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else listening, con mis hermanos latinos escuchando, from Youngstown, Ohio, I present to you all Kacy Standohar. Kacy, welcome on.
Thank you. This was the best intro I've ever had in my life. I'm sure you get that a lot. That was so much energy. You are amazing. I was loving the Spanish sprinkled in there. Thank you so much. That is very kind. I am so excited to be on the show. And I know it's long overdue because we had planned to do this and then life and things happen. So I'm glad we can make it happen.
I am super glad to have you on. I recently had an episode with Jenna Duddleston, and we were just talking about like, I need to get Kacy on. I really need to get Kacy on.
I have to go back and watch that episode because I just saw her the other day. We filmed the DePaul podcast because we worked together on that. And we didn't talk about that. So that's great. I'm glad you had her as well. She's fantastic, isn't she?
You know what's interesting is that she is basically the sister, and it's a small world completely. She is the sister of one of the, I can't remember who it was, but Taylor Duddleston, I remember. Yes. She is her sister because we both went to the same school in Bridgeport. So I was like, God, what a small world.
You know, I always say this about Jenna, no matter where I go with her, She knows everybody. She knows somebody. Like everywhere I go, I'm like, oh my God, you were like the mayor of the South Side, you know? And so that's cool that you grew up in Bridgeport too. I'm not, like I said, not from Ohio, like you said in the intro, but I mean, not from Chicago, but I love meeting like true Chicagoans and just like immersing myself in their world because they're awesome.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing for sure. So, welcome, Kacy, to the next chapter of Sports Podcast. I just want to ask, like, how does it feel to be a very special guest on here?
I'm thrilled, honestly. Like you made me feel like $1,000,000 today because I would think I was telling you before we started recording. I'm in the middle of planning my wedding. I've got a lot going on, but like this is a time for me to just sit and get to talk with you and kind of share a little bit more about my journey, which I don't get to do a lot because, you know, as a sports reporter, I'm often interviewing other athletes and other people. So it's nice to be able to like reflect back on my story. And I'm just thrilled. And I love that you've had 38 episodes already. That's amazing.
It is absolutely amazing, and I want to give a shout out to my recently co-host Paquito, who now works as the Bears with game day operations, if I'm not
Oh, cool.
mistaken.
That's great.
So we would always have like, and this is just a short story here. We basically met at a Bears draft party event, which was last year in April. That's where basically they drafted Caleb Williams, and I
Mhm.
was like, this guy knows about sports, and I was barely starting my podcast because this project I started building since February of last year, as I would tell my audience members here, that it's such amazing, like the connections. We always talk about connections here, and I always said like connections can get you into a really, really good spot. You
Yes.
just never know where.
Never know. And that's honestly like the story of my career, honestly, because I didn't have the same type of training as other sports journalists. And there's no cookie cutter path in this business. But so much of what I've done is because of the connections I've built. So I am a true, you know, testament to that as well.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing. So speaking of your journey, let's talk about it. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's get started, shall we? So
Yes.
first, I like to start off from your early beginnings. You were born and raised in a city called Youngstown in Ohio, known as a mid city, but the best
Mhm.
city, of course, but a great area indeed. What was it like growing up in such a great area like Youngstown in Ohio?
Yeah, so Youngstown is definitely a smaller city than Chicago, but it has similar vibes to Chicago. Whereas, like, I think the people are hardworking, it's gritty, it's blue collar. It was an old steel town, so a lot of it is like, you know, based on how people grew up and kind of working hard and that same kind of mentality of hard work. And I went to college at Youngstown State, and so I got, you know, a great education. I studied journalism, grew up in basically right near Youngstown, Ohio, where with my parents and my younger brother. And I grew up loving sports. I would watch, you know, Cleveland baseball with my dad, and my brother played baseball and basketball and golf. And so there was a lot going on. And I was kind of like the dancer cheerleader type. So I wasn't really, I did play softball, but I was definitely more like the performer in the family. Now being able to cover sports and be on television is cool because it still kind of fills that performance thing about me that I love. So it kind of fills that void in my life because unfortunately I'm no longer a dancer. I mean, I can, but I just didn't pursue that professionally. So it was great to grow up in Youngstown. I still go home there for Christmas and sometimes Thanksgiving. And yeah, I love where I'm from. I'm very proud of where I'm from.
That is absolutely amazing, like especially just to hear from your background. And Cleveland, I've heard it multiple times, like, you know, before they used to have a team, where they still have a team, of course,
Mhm.
MLB with Cleveland Guardians. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna say the name so that way there isn't any problems whatsoever. But beforehand, like I remember that team, of course, and still is up to this day, of course, in Cleveland, along with the Cleveland Cavaliers and all that. That's pretty much
Yeah.
what I know from Cleveland for sure. So
Right. Yeah. We grew up Indians fans, and I know that like they changed the name, and I understand that. I understand why it had to go. I'm still a Guardians fan, and I'm still a Cavs fan and a Browns fan. It's just now that I work in Chicago and cover the teams here, I root for the teams here. So I will say like I'm also a Cubs fan, which I know is crazy because of 2016. I root for the Bears. I want the Bears to do well. I cover the Bears. It's interesting to be a fan of like different teams. Like when you work in sports, I think it's kind of like you end up kind of rooting for just good teams and good stories and good people.
that is absolute. I don't even want to say that I'm a Sox fan, unfortunately, but
Yeah, you're a Bridgeport guy, right?
it is
So
what it is. Yeah, it's true. Like I'm a Bridgeport guy for sure, and like you know, I gotta stick with the Southsiders for sure. And I mean, no hate at all to the Northsiders. I think the Cubs have a fantastic team with Kyle Tucker, Pete Crow Armstrong, and these Daniel Palencia as well. Like I really had faith. Now that I think about it, I really had faith that the Cubs were going to go all the way, because you could tell, like, I know, like, in the beginning they started off so strong, but then afterwards it started die down a little bit, but then they picked up the pace right away, and I was just really impressed.
Yeah, it's a good team. It was a sad clubhouse after game 5 of the NLDS when they lost, because you could tell that the guys were dejected and they knew the season was ending too soon in their eyes. And so it was hard to see like Pete Armstrong like kind of get like, like tears welling in his eyes, because he's a young, really good athlete and deserves, to have that success that he's had, but a short ending. So I don't know. We'll see about next year. I think the Sox have a lot of growth too. It's just, I think what's the toughest thing about it is seeing Andrew Vaughn, who played for the White Sox, then go over to the Brewers and perform the way he did and like hit home runs in the postseason for the Brewers. I'm like, oh, that hurts Chicago even more. It just hurts.
It hurts so much. I'm saying it just really, really hurts, for
Right.
sure. So, continuing on, while growing up in Ohio, you attended YSU, Youngstown State University, where you studied journalism before coming to the Windy City here in 2018 to focus on sports media. So, during your youth, how did that environment shape your perspective to become a journalist?
Youngstown State isn't really known for their journalism program, but I think I knew I wanted to write. I knew I wanted to be kind of involved with like English, writing, journalism. Sorry, my dog's jumping around here too. You'll get to
That's
see
okay.
Bernie. And I think for a while I was like, okay, I'm going to be a writer for like the Chicago Tribune or, Teen Vogue. I want to write for fashion. I want to write for sports. I want to do entertainment. And so, but when I graduated college, Instagram and social media was like kind of picking up. Like it was the time when Instagram was getting popular. People were reading less print journalism and more like social and things that were on, online. And so I interned at a TV station in Youngstown, Ohio, interned at a station called WKBN. And at WKBN, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is what I want to do. This lights me up, And so it was cool to get to like see the inner workings of a TV station, like how we write stories for TV, short form stories, web stories, how we kind of process that information and how we tell those stories on the air. And I fell in love with it, but I didn't have a ton of experience. And I became a producer at the other station after that at WFMJ. And that's where I kind of like learned a ton about production and writing. And I shadowed some reporters there and kind of dipped my feet into that world. And then it kind of just, sprouted from that. But getting to cover the stories in Youngstown, Ohio and being a part of that team really shaped me. And it's cool because the first station I worked at was an NBC affiliate in Youngstown. So kind of full circle to now be working at NBC in Chicago.
That is absolutely amazing to hear, like, especially like, with communities and everything. Like, I'm very passionate about helping out the communities, even for the new generation of journalists coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
And, with previous episodes that I've had, I would always say, like, never give up on your dreams, because maybe,
Right.
one day you might work for Univision, one day you might work with Telemundo, maybe one day you might work with
Right.
NBC. Like, you just never know exactly.
That's
And
the
I
thing.
think
You never know. I came to NBC in 2013 when I was in college, and I saw the NBC Tower and I was like, how cool would it be to work here someday? So, and that's the thing, you just never know. It could happen.
it could definitely happen for sure. So, para mis hermanos latinos ya lo saben, luchen por sus sueños. Yo sé lo que les digo. So, let's transition to the early part of your career. So, you started out, speaking of which, doing behind the scenes work for high school sports and also worked with teams with like the Chicago Bandits, speaking of which, and the Windy City Thunderbolts. So, like covering those teams, what did covering lesser known or independent league squads teach you, and how did you apply those lessons into your work today?
Well, I'm so grateful for those programs and those, athletic departments, because they gave me a chance. They were like, yeah, you can come, shoot videos and do work with us. We can't really pay you, but, you can come get your experience and build your tape. And so I contacted the Bandits and I contacted the Thunderbolts. And it was a lot of traveling. I had to go to Rosemont. I had to go down to Crestwood, Illinois, and do that, for free. But it made me so happy because I was getting experience that I needed. I was learning about how to interview athletes. I was talking to pitchers and catchers and coaches and managers, and just getting that really good on-camera experience that I needed, that I was lacking still. And then I got hired with Comcast CN100 to do their high school games. And it was really behind the scenes. I was like tracking plays. Like they had me like do like, all right, ball down on the, the 40, 4th and 10, like whatever it might be. Like I was just writing out the shot list for the photographers, learning more about football and kind of processing what's a big play, what's not a big play, what kind of questions should we ask this high school athlete after. And so I got to do a lot of that. And again, it felt like grunt work at the time, but it shaped me into the journalist I am and helped me. Sorry, that's my dog. It helped me like learn more about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And so grateful for those clubs for giving me a chance, for those networks for giving me a chance, like knowing full well I did not have a lot of experience and didn't know what I was doing, but I learned and I made it happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely interesting for sure. And I think the dog wants to be a part of the episode.
Yeah, he does. Bernie is a big ham. This is Bernie. He's being a little crazy. He never lets me have any peace.
That's
No.
okay though, for sure. But like anytime that he wants to be a part of it, he's more than welcome to, for sure. So
yeah, exactly. He loves the podcast.
in addition to working behind the scenes for the Bandits and the Thunderbolts, you also served as a social media director for them, appearing regularly on their podcast, helping along with their live shows, and also like growing their content and digital reach further out. So, how did that like managing content strategy and on-air work help you grow on CHGO's digital reach and shape your own perspective in sports media?
Yeah, CHGO was like the first full-time job I had in the business, right? In the sports world. And it was so cool when it started because it was like a startup and it was kind of working from the ground up on this project where we were going to make content digestible, fun, interesting for sports fans in the area and like giving people a place to come watch the Bears, watch the Bulls, watch their favorite personalities talk about these people. That was such a fun time for me. And I'm so grateful for that experience because even though it didn't work out in the end and I left after 2 years, it shaped me into a better Chicago sports fan and a Chicago sports reporter. And it helped me get the job at NBC because I was familiar with the teams, the players, the beat writers. You know, I knew more about the landscape. And so I'm grateful for that experience so much. But it was fun. We did Bears draft parties and tailgates and they still do all that stuff and they're great. And I still talk to the people that I worked with there from time to time. So even in the moment when you don't really realize how it's all going to come together and make sense, CHGO was kind of a springboard for me in that way.
That is absolutely awesome for sure. And you know, when you keep building and building and building along the way, you guys, that's exactly how, if you want to be like a future journalist here or any type of thing in social media or media in general, like you should just go for it for sure. Like I have absolutely no problem with it, and trust me that you're gonna go all the way up. So speaking of CHGO, so after working with them, actually, a few positions you took part of was basically sideline reporting for the Illinois Fighting Illinois team at Urbana-Champaign, the NCAA's men's basketball broadcast, and also covering the Big East. Shout out to DePaul. DePaul's the best, I will have to say for sure. So featuring baseball and softball for FS1. So while functioning through these huge stations here, in what ways did jumping from here to there and to all the way over there between all these sports and networks help you grow as a reporter?
I am an advocate of reaching out even if you don't know if a job is available. And that's what I did with Illinois. And that's how I got that gig. And I loved it. And I wish I could have done it this year too, but it's just hard with NBC. But essentially, I reached out to like DePaul, UIC, the Big East, and I just called them and I said, hey, do you guys have any openings? Like, I'm an up and coming reporter. I'd love to be a part of your coverage. I'm local. I can do this. What do you need? And I was working kind of as this freelance broadcaster where I'm able to do a bunch of different things. And so I started working with DePaul softball and DePaul women's basketball and soccer. And now I host a podcast for DePaul and I love DePaul. They have been so just instrumental in my career and they believe in me. And I'm just so grateful for DePaul. They are an amazing university and I want to work with them for as long as I can. And then Illinois was interesting because I just called because I wanted more Big Ten football experience. And I called their athletic department. I talked to their staff and I just said, hey, I could do like social media videos for you. I can do reporting, pregame interviews with Coach Bielema, with your players, whatever you want me to do, I can do it. And so it was harder to get back and forth and get down there, but that was also a fantastic experience. I basically did 3 videos a week per game, went down for all the home games, got to do pregame interviews with Coach, who is a fantastic man. I love him, and just kind of be a part of the game day experience there. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And then come October, actually around this time last year, they called me up and they were like, hey, you know, our main radio sideline guy is going to be out because his brother's getting married. Will you fill in on the radio for sideline for the Illinois versus Michigan game? And I was like, oh my God, this is like a dream. Like, yes, of course. And so that was also a really cool experience to get to be on the radio broadcast for a Big Ten football game. Brian and the guys that work there, Brett, Brian, all the analysts, Kevin, like they're a great team. All those experiences helped make me a better reporter because each experience was like off the cuff and different and exciting. And you had to kind of work with new people and adjust to a new team. But the more you do it, the more reps you get, the better you are. So if you do 10 softball games, 10 volleyball games, a couple football games a year, you're going to keep getting better and better because you're doing it constantly.
That is absolutely amazing for sure. And I just want to give a huge shout out to the producers and everybody from the Blue Demon Room podcast. I've listened to a couple of episodes along, and I want to give also another shout out to Jenna because those episodes are absolutely fantastic. Like, I don't know how many times I have to keep listening. Like, the stories behind the athletes are just so pure, they're so
No.
powerful. And I was telling Jenna in the one of the previous episodes that the one athlete that I would relate so much would have to be Nala Dominguez because I mean, of course, you have the Latin roots, but also you also have behind like what's behind the story or what's behind the athlete that not everybody knows about. And I was
Wasn't
just
she
like
sweet? Like, and
listening.
she got emotional, and she was just fantastic.
She was absolutely fantastic, of course,
Mhm.
and soccer, of course, soccer is my number one sport. I'm sorry for the rest of the other sports, but honestly, like the way how the stories are brought and the way how athletes just share their journey is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, speaking of your career and everything, like what was the most pivotal moment that helped you transition from local to national sports coverage?
I'm still even not at the national level that I'd like to be at. Covering local sports in Chicago is fantastic, but it's interesting to go from covering high school, which is also really important. I love doing the state championships. I love doing all those things. And then to cover college and then to say, okay, now you're covering the Bulls, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Fire, the Red Stars, the Stars now to get to like kind of transition to that. The Bears is a lot because you have to kind of just continue to be buttoned up, continue to know your stuff, continue to treat the right people with kindness and treat everyone with kindness, but be in the right place at the right time. And so all the rules still apply at every level. It'd be true to yourself, be who you are, be good, easy to work with, be good to work with, be helpful. Even if you're like, hey, I, don't really do this normally, but I'm happy to help hold the camera. I'm happy to help, hold this or carry something in. Like, you don't need to, if you're a reporter, you don't need to be the diva who doesn't like help out with anything else. Like, I've been a producer, I've been a writer, I've been a social media person. So like, if you can do a little bit of everything, offer to help because you know what that person's going through and you know what they need to do to get their job done. All of those experience helped me be better because it was reps, it was consistent, it was learning the ins and outs, making mistakes. Making mistakes is huge because it helps you not repeat the same mistake the next time. I feel really blessed to have kind of grown in my career here in Chicago in a big city in market number 3 and be able to have these experiences that I've had and learn so much and like connect with people all over. Like the sports community and the broadcasting community here is pretty small actually. Like you end up knowing all the same people. So I'm just really lucky. And even when I talk about it, it's like I get emotional because it's like I came here and I didn't know anyone in 2018. I didn't know a soul. So it's been a great journey.
It's been absolutely a great journey, and just by hearing you eventually, like it's not easy. And it's one of the things that I really want to emphasize. Like it's not easy when you're building a career behind the scenes or even like way behind, but like people don't recognize you, and that's the problem
Mm-hmm.
right there. But eventually at some point you're gonna make it no matter what. And I'm telling from my audience members here is that you just can't give up. I
Yeah.
was at the point where I almost gave up. I almost was at a point where this project was not even going to continue anymore. And I was by myself. Everybody was telling me, continue on. Just keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Push through. No matter what happens,
Love
push,
that you
push.
did that. I love that you're saying that because that's how I am too. My mom always says, keep swimming, just keep swimming. Like, even if you wake up and you're not feeling it, or you have a tough day, or you're like, oh my God, this isn't going anywhere. I'm just going to quit. I'm going to do this instead. I've had those moments too, but something always kind of pulls me back into it. And something always makes me say, one more day, do one more thing, do one more project and just see. And then I always end up staying in it anyway.
It is absolutely amazing. Like I said, like you just gotta keep pushing through, keep
Yeah.
going, no matter what happens. I've always had like this final reflection actually at the end of the episode where we talk about like motivating, inspiring, doing a little tech talk for the
Yeah.
next upcoming generations because you just never know who you're gonna encounter, but also give them that motivation, give them that advice, give them those tips and tricks of how to be successful. And that's exactly how we have it here on the next chapter of sports. So, speaking of the Blue Demon Room podcast, this question is actually one of my favorites to ask because after you ended those positions and were put on pause for a little bit, you took on this amazing assignment, which is basically the Blue Demon Room podcast for DePaul Athletics. So that features, of course, reporting and storytelling around college sports here in the Windy City, or as I like to call it, Chi-Town, as many people would call it. So tell us how this assignment came along. What or how does it involve, or like what's the purpose behind it?
Paul Stromberg, who works in the athletic department at DePaul, contacted me and he was like, "Hey, Kacy, we're thinking of starting an athletics podcast, and we want it to be a space for coaches, alumni, athletes to tell their stories in a more in-depth form, just long form content, a place where they can continue to speak on their journey. Because sometimes in sideline interviews, you only have like 2 minutes or 1 minute, and it's like very, very quick. So we wanted to give these athletes a platform in the Big East Conference, which in my opinion is one of the best conferences, especially when it comes to basketball, a chance to people can talk more about their life and their journey. And it's, a great tool for recruiting and for people wanting to come to DePaul and interested in DePaul, because it's not only a great school for athletics, it's a great school for the arts and film and music and theater. So there's a lot to do, and you get to be on a campus that's in the middle of Chicago. It's like so cool. So I wish I would have went to DePaul. So he contacted me and he said, "We're going to do this podcast and we want it to be you that's the host." And I was so honored. I was like, "Yes, of course, I'll do it. I'll make it happen." And he said, we're going to try to do 2 episodes a month, like bi-weekly, and it's going to be student run. So we have a fantastic, amazing, funny, brilliant team of students that help run the whole thing, that produce it, that do the social media, that help us come up with guests and ideas and questions. And so to have this student team that's getting experience, but also helping us is amazing. Yeah, so that came about like that. And we started out with a couple episodes and we launched the podcast, and now we're on season 2. And adding in Jenna has been so great, because I think a lot of great podcasts, like you were saying, you have a partner on yours, and a lot of great podcasts have multiple voices. Knowing Jenna is a Southside girl and went to DePaul, I was like, she'd be a perfect co-host. So it was great to bring her on this year, and we get to bounce ideas off each other and the guests and our team. I never have a bad day when I walk into McGrath Phillips Arena and go upstairs and do the podcast. It's always fun.
Season 2, of course, is like so amazing. But I just want to say a little bit about DePaul, which is actually my school, of course. And I want to give a shout out to my DePaul people, of course, on Radio DePaul Sports and Entertainment, because y'all make me feel like family. Y'all make me feel like family. That's all I'm saying, you guys.
You
Like,
do that. I love that about them.
it's so amazing for sure. But going back to DePaul a little bit, and they say, and this is just me, I could be totally 100% wrong here. They say that, speaking of journalism, it's one of the best journalism schools too. That's what
Do
they
they?
say.
I love that, because I feel like more people should know that, and I love my experience at YSU, but it wasn't like known for journalism. So it's cool to see DePaul be on the map for reporting and journalism.
That is absolutely amazing for sure. So thank you to Paul for accepting me with open arms. I just want to say thank you so much, of course. So throughout the course of your entire career, Kacy, speaking of the podcast and the episodes that you've done, have any of those stories, or even athletes in particular, stick with you over time? Like the amount of like stories and the journeys that they've gone through, has that stick with you over time?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Nala is a great example. I mean, she was getting emotional over, losing someone that was close to her, and during our episode, knowing that these athletes are more than just athletes, like you talked about earlier. They have emotions, they have ups and downs. I love learning about a lot of these athletes' routines, because it inspires me to be better at my routine. Like a lot of times I'm working late at NBC and my routine's kind of thrown off, but I love being inspired with their training, with how they eat, with how their mindset is when they're going into a tournament or a big match or whatever it might be. Like those are the things that stick with me. When I leave inspired to like go have a better day and go work out or do whatever, I feel really good. Being around these athletes does that for me. Jory Allen is one of the other athletes from DePaul that she was on the basketball team, and she was a fantastic athlete, and she's kind of like an old soul too. And so she has this like wit and charm about her that's always stuck with me. I'm like, she's just so cool. Cause you think like athletes are like rough and tough and athletic. She loves like jazz music and old movies, and like, and we had a kid from the golf team who is in a Beatles cover band. Like, how cool. Like these people are more than just the sport they play. And so he plays instruments and makes Beatles cover videos, and like I'm like, these people are so interesting. It's just so great. That sticks with me a lot.
It definitely does. And like speaking from experience, because I was an athlete, I wasn't like a college or high school athlete. I was more of like a community-based athlete. And just the fact that like even some of them still today call me a legend, because my sport is soccer. So we would always play the soccer and be part of like different teams with like different Mexican names and stuff like that. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is that I was chosen to be like one of the, what was it, like one of the all-stars. It was like a competition between who was going to be like the best of the best. and they chose me because I was a goalie. I was a goalkeeper, of course, and they just saw like the potential that I had on the net, on
Yeah.
that square net right there, and just the fact that like when you're so a part of like a great community, even for a podcast or even for a team or just being around people in general, that's just what makes you feel special. It just like makes you feel like you're part of something that like
Mhm.
never before you never experienced.
Knowing I wasn't a college athlete, being around them still gives me that feeling. And so it's very fulfilling and it's so cool. I love that you love soccer. It's the sport I know the least about, but I try to be more up to date. Someone I think you should have on the show is Hector Lozano from Telemundo.
Yes.
He, I work with him, so I'll tell him. I'll tell him to come on because I'll see him probably tonight. I think he'd be a great guest for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we've been trying our best. We've been trying our best to get
Yeah,
Hector Lozano, and oh, it would be so amazing for sure.
oh, you
So,
would love him. He's like the funniest, fun guy, and he's just so good at his job. Like, being able to do sports in English and Spanish, I think is a whole other skill set.
oh, that's absolutely amazing for sure. Hector, te necesitamos, papá, te necesitamos. So, as of this year, you stepped into a big chapter, and I'm gonna say it, a big role as a full-time sports reporter and anchor for NBC5 Chicago. Speaking of which, so what was that transition like for you to go into this big role?
Yeah, so I'm still freelance at NBC, which is great because I still am able to do other things. So I can work at NBC Chicago 4 or 5 days a week, but also still do sideline reporting for ESPN Plus, for Fox Sports, for DePaul, for I do a high school show in Michigan, Friday Football Tailgate. We just finished up our season there. They're amazing too, and so it's been great to have a couple other things peppered in there. But NBC, I started in January, and it has been the most rewarding job. I feel like I'm at NBC. I'm in a place where I really fit in, and it like really makes me like excited to go to work every day. I'm going to go in a couple hours here and I'll anchor the 5, 6 and 10 p.m. shows for sports, and the team is so nice. Everybody, not even just sports, the news team, the producers, the managers. I work with the best people and they make coming to work fun. Really great to be able to share these stories and my producers be like, yeah, run with it. Let's do it. Try it. I love what I do at NBC. I love getting to cover the Cubs. I love getting to cover the Bears, and just learning kind of the anchor desk is a little bit different too. Like learning how to read the prompter, like sideline reporting, like you don't get to stop and go back and say, hey, let's start over again. It's kind of like however it comes out is how it comes out. But it's so cool to be able to connect with the audience and know that like a lot of Chicago is watching every night. And it's fun to get emails from viewers who are like, hey, welcome to the NBC family. Like, love watching you every night. I got stopped the other day. I was walking down the street. This man stopped me in his car and he felt bad because he's like, I don't mean to scare you. I just wanted to let you know that like we saw you from the street and my wife and I watch you every night on our TVs and we love watching you. And it like made my day. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. And so it's nice to know you're making some sort of impact.
That's exactly the whole point of why I have this project here because we're building a community here. And just like the fact that, you get to know people, but not only that, you get to be like the person behind the scenes. You get to be the person who is such an amazing guy or even women to be around because not everybody can fit that role if you really think about it. Not everyone. And it's just amazing to see, like, it makes you feel special. Like, it makes you feel a certain way, but in a good way. Like,
Yeah.
for NBC5 Chicago, I can imagine, and this is just me, I can imagine it could get very intensive at times. So,
Yeah.
what does, like, a typical day look like for you as a reporter slash anchor?
Yeah, so I'll go in at like 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I basically get ready at home for the most part. And then I will go in around 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I will connect with my producers and say, hey, what's going on today? Like, the Cubs just ended their season. The Bears are prepping for Sunday, but they just had a good Monday night win. What's important? Like, who's playing tonight? What's important? What are we doing first, second, third in our rundown? Like, how are we going to stack the rundown? And so I'll talk with producers, say hi to everybody, put my stuff down. I write the show. So I'll like help my producers write the show. So I'm gathering all the elements I want for the 5 p.m. show. They'll cut the video. I'll write the script, highlights, whatever it might be. And then we go on at 5:15 with sports. And then we basically turn around and do it again. So before the show, I'll get all mic'd up. I'll put my earpiece in, put my microphone pack on, make sure I look the part, practice what I'm going to say, make sure I'm there, with plenty of time to do the sports tease. And then I do it again at 6. And then the 6 can be a little bit different. It's a little bit more time. And so at 6:00, we'll do a couple more stories or mix things up, or maybe pick a different soundbite from a coach, or, we might hear from Ben Johnson at 5, and then we'll hear from Caleb Williams at 6. So we try to make it fresh for everybody if you're watching both shows. And then I have a break between 6:30 and basically 9:30 to either watch whatever games are on, or, eat dinner, prep the 10:00 show. And so there's kind of like that lull in between, but it's nice because the 10:00 is our longest sports block. We have a couple minutes to tell the sports stories and do the 10. And so I get ready again around 10, and then at 10:20 I do the sports, and then I basically record the morning segment, which is basically the same thing I did at 10, but for the morning show. So I'll turn all the tonights into last nights, or, and then they use that at 5 a.m. the next day, and then I go home.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
again, between working through every station here, like NBC5 Chicago, ESPN Plus, FS1, and even the podcasting world and everything. You're in everything. I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
You're in every part of it. And it's amazing.
It's so fun.
How do you even balance that? With on camera, producing content, prepping for so many? Because I mean, if it were to be me, I mean, I'm not gonna lie here, but I would just be so exhausted from it.
Yeah. I definitely am tired a lot of the time. I probably look tired right now, but I try to compartmentalize and just do what's in front of me. If I'm reporting that day, I'm focused on reporting. What's my story? What's my package going to be about? If I'm anchoring that day, how can I be the best anchor I can be? How can I take care of my voice, my body? How can I eat right? How can I make sure I know what's going on? I'll listen to sports radio in the morning and kind of make sure I know, what are people talking about? What's the story? Is Kyle Tucker going to sign with the Cubs again? What did the Bears do yesterday? What did Troy Aikman say about Caleb Williams that they're talking, that kind of stuff. You're just paying attention to those storylines just in case, but things can change all the time. And so it does get exhausting, but I try to just do what's in front of me. Today is an NBC day. Tomorrow is an NBC day. Saturday is an ESPN Plus day. So last night I had calls with coaches from Illinois State and from YSU for that game on Saturday that I'm doing. And so I try to compartmentalize and just put things in their boxes and get to it when I can. But it is hard to juggle sometimes, definitely.
And it definitely is a juggle sometimes. And, for reporters and for anchors, and this is just me, I have an understanding, it is a tough competitive field, for journalism, because again, you have to do live coverage, you have to create content, you have to be on point, you have to be straight on point, like I say, or even there's a phrase that I would say, get to the facts, y'all, get to the facts. And
Yeah.
there are challenges and there are such obstacles along the line. So for you, Kacy, what was the most challenging part that you've witnessed so far, with live reporting, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, you get nervous a little bit for sure, because a lot of people are watching and you want to do a good job. So I just make sure I practice ahead of time, know what I'm going to say coming into it. And like you said, the facts, be brief. I used to have trouble, and I still do sometimes, being more brief. Get to the point right away, get to the main part of your story. So I'll write my hit out, and then I'll kind of rewrite it and say, how can I make this better? How can I shorten it? How can I get to the soundbite faster? It's not always perfect. There's going to be times where you're like, oh, I kind of talked in circles there and I had to get back to my point. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are. And so when I was live in Milwaukee for the Cubs game, the 5:00 A block hit was setting the scene for fans. Who did you talk to? What are the fans feeling? How excited are they? And then the 5:00 sports hit was all right, Drew Pomeranz is on the mound tonight. He's a lefty. He's going to be good for this team. He's going to set the tone. Here are the other guys Craig Counsell could use, and so you kind of have to because you really only have 45 seconds to a minute to tell this story in this sports block. So brevity is important, and I'm still learning that. Trying to control your nerves is important. Trying to compartmentalize and compose yourself and say, okay, even if someone's giving me bunny ears behind me or yelling in the middle of my shot, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to make sure I'm locked in on this moment, because I only have a minute to tell the story. So, and then it's a lot because you're trying to run around with your photographer and get information and collect what you need and get there on time. And so you kind of just have to stay focused. And I think the hardest thing is like you were saying earlier, trying to make content while you do that, trying to be everything all at once. It's really hard to eat healthy, drink enough water, make the social media content, do a good live report, get enough sleep. It's a lot. And so I would say to students and anyone that's aspiring to be a journalist or a reporter or whatever, give yourself grace. It's not always going to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect the first time you do it. In fact, you won't be the 21st time you do it, so just keep going, like we talked about. Give yourself grace to make mistakes, but prepare as much as you can. That's also important.
Kacy just answered the last two questions I had for her in the interview, you guys. Like, she just went ahead, but that's okay though. Like, that's exactly what I would say for my future journalists y para mi gente ya, mi raza latina. Don't give up. And there are multiple instances, you guys, and I will speak about this in the final reflection también. Don't give up. Here's what happened, Kacy. So we had an episode with El Profe Bracamontes, who this guy is a huge soccer analyst that he
Mhm.
worked for more than 20 years with Univision, and he was telling us like you're gonna encounter some really, really mean people in the
Mhm.
industry, but you have to stay phased. You have to stay focused. Keep your control. You're gonna hear a lot of no's. Eventually, you're gonna hear a yes and all that. And the guy is very inspiring because he works along with my idol named Pablo. And yes, I will say he's my idol, you guys. For los que me saben, me conocen, for those of you that know me. And we were just like speaking alongside with my partner at the time. And it was interesting like how he was saying, like very inspirational as well. Like you have to keep going. You can't give up. You have to keep going all the way, push, 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 and eventually you'll get a yes. And just like hearing from him and just hearing from his experiences as well, like you have to keep going no matter what. Like at some point, someone is going to spot you. At some point, someone is going to recognize you. But if you don't have the capability to do it, knowing that it is a very tough and competitive field, how are you going to
Mhm.
be able to do it? What is the whole point of this? Like, I'm going to tell you guys, los que me están escuchando, the whole point of this is to get your tail on there. Get
Mhm.
in there, get involved, be part of something.
Right.
Like connections, and I've said it multiple times, and I will keep repeating myself, you guys. Connections are super duper important. I don't know how many times do I have to say it, but it's true. Like,
Yeah.
look at Kacy's career. Look at basically what I'm doing as well. Like, we're young, pero podemos lograrlo. We can do this no matter what. So
Yeah.
continue on, ladies and gentlemen, with the episode. Of course, Kacy's gonna stick around. I will have to say, and I know Kacy, with the World Cup have going on, I even mentioned it multiple times. I'm going to the World Cup. I'm
Are
definitely
you?
going. Yes.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That'll be amazing.
It's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna report. I'm gonna do some episodes for the show, of course, and
Cool.
we're gonna be interviewing fans. And yeah, the
Yeah.
World Cup 2026, for those that don't know, is gonna be held in all North America, the United States, Mexico, and Canada, of course. And we've been talking. I've been talking with a bunch of colleagues and a bunch of friends of mine about this Mexican national team that I'm not even gonna even get there because I'm gonna get so passionate and heated that I think this episode's gonna like explode all the way. But one of the things for sure with this World Cup is that it has expanded to a 48 team format. They just added a round of 32 because before they had a round of 16 that would after the group stage it would always be the round of 16 because it would be 32 teams, but they expanded now to 48 teams. I think it's really good to see. I really want to see like how FIFA is going to implement that. But yeah, that's pretty much all like for soccer and everything, but like I'm just such a passionate guy for soccer.
I love that. You're making me want to watch it now, and I don't really watch that much soccer, but I will be tuning in. Obviously, I know the World Cup's really important and always very exciting. And how cool we have the World Cup. We have the Olympics in Milan. Like, there's so much going on next year.
There is absolutely so much going on
Mhm.
next year. Like I said, I'll be reporting NBC. Hopefully for NBC, they can
Yes,
accept my.
you never know who you're gonna meet there. I love it. That's gonna be
That's
so
what I'm
awesome.
saying. That's what I'm saying. You just never know where you're gonna be there. But yes, I will be covering the World Cup for sure, and it's gonna be amazing to go to different cities and be a part of the. I feel like that this World Cup is gonna be the biggest in history.
Oh
I can
yeah,
feel it.
I believe you.
I can
Mhm.
feel it's gonna be biggest in history. So with the Cubs and White Sox, really quick, you guys, I feel bad for the Cubs because you had a great season, but also keep in mind that Rhino Sandberg passed away. He was a legend. Like it just
Mhm.
deep here in my heart. Like I feel like the Cubs did it. Even though they didn't go all the way, but I feel like they did it for Sandberg, and you just got to be impressed of their performance.
Yeah, it was a tough year. Losing Rhino, losing Bobby Jenks on the White Sox side. I mean, there was a lot of loss this year. Yeah, I'm excited to see what these teams can do in the future too. I believe that White Sox have a lot of growth. They showed signs of improvement this year. Cubs as well.
Cubs all the way up to the NLDS against the rival Milwaukee. But I even said it, like I have a radio show behind this, but I even said it that the Cubs were gonna make it all the way to Game 5 in the NLDS because at Wrigley Field they're a very different team, and that's what I told these guys. Like it's a
Yeah.
very different team, and the
Mhm.
way how the fans and everybody was so involved into it, just to see like the passion behind it. Because with the White Sox as well, like had a very at least better season than last season, of course.
That's
Everybody knows what happened last season. I'm not gonna, go on a rage on that. But still, like improvement. I can see those improvements. I could definitely see it from Will Venable and the Southsiders, of course, and the Bears. Let's talk about them Bears
Three
because
in a row, baby. 3 in a row.
3 in a row with Ben Johnson. This is exactly what Chicago needed. And I've talked to my guy Paquito, shout out Paquito, that the Bears are really building something here with Ben
Mhm.
Johnson. 3 in a row already, 3-2 in the season. Of course, I even said it. I feel like they're going to go to the playoffs. Of course, offense is going to work around a little bit with Caleb Williams, but I mean, you can't have a better coach than Ben Johnson with Chicago.
He's the spark this team needed. So I'm excited to see what they can do. The game last Monday was a nail biter down to the last field goal. Moody coming up big for this team on the practice squad. So they're clicking and I like what I see. And obviously, like even Ben Johnson alluded to this in his post game. He was like, imagine how lethal we'll be when we clean up those penalties, when we clean up some of those things that we didn't have to do, that we hurt ourselves doing. So I'm hoping this is the beginning of the upswing for the Bears.
I'm really hoping to. I have a deep heart to Chicago. I know I'm a Carolina Panther fan, but Chicago's Chicago. Like I got to root for my hometown no matter
Right.
what. So, and one last thing before we move on to the final reflection, you guys, Casey, tell us about Friday Football Tailgate because this is something that I've never even heard before.
I'm really glad you asked about that because I wanted to share about that. It's a high school football show in Michigan that found me, and they headed up this project, and it's kind of like what you imagine college game day is for high schools. So it's really cool to be able to go to different high schools in Southwest Michigan. We went to Omaha, Nebraska, Green Bay. We've been all over, and we get to kind of do this pregame show before these big matchups, wherever they might be. And so it's so fun. The fans come out and they tailgate and they have signs and the cheerleaders are there and the bands are there. And it feels like a college game day atmosphere, but it's high school sports and it's giving these high school athletes the coverage they wouldn't normally get. And so we love doing it. We're going to be back for season 3 next year. Season 3 should be good. Ryan Cheevers and Randy and Kate and my whole team there, Brent and Ken, they're phenomenal people. I'm so glad they found me because it's been such a cool project and I get to go to Michigan to cover high school sports, which is high school sports is where I got my start. So, and that show streams on YouTube and we're trying to grow and we're trying to get more out there. So I'm glad you asked.
Oh yeah, I definitely had to ask because like I would look at these reels on Instagram and I'm like, that is so cool, and just has the same atmosphere as college game day,
Yeah.
and just to see like at least have high schools along with it, it's super impressive. I'm honestly
Yeah.
gonna say like it's super impressive to have
Thank
high
you.
schools along the way.
Thank you. And the team works really hard on the shows and they're very passionate about it. And schools love having us there, which we love being there. So we cannot be more excited to keep that going. And it's gotten better and better each year so far.
I'm really crying and I'm tearing up because we have reached to the final segment of today's episode, you guys. I am so teary. I wish Keisha would have more time with us, but unfortunately, it
I'll
wouldn't
come
be
back
possible.
again. We'll do a round 2.
We have to do a part two.
I
I am
love it.
open for a part two for sure. So
Okay.
the quote of the day with you guys, and speaking of the final reflection, this is from Muddy Waters. He's a blues musician and Chicago resident, speaking of which. So Chicago, Chicago, all the way. And this is what he said. He said, going to Chicago was like going out of the world. Going
Mm.
to Chicago was like going out of the world. Chicago is an absolute amazing city. I am so proud of myself for at least being born here. And just the city, especially in the nighttime and downtown and the loop, I just love it absolutely. And it's like I even ask myself, like, where do I come from? How is the city like? Like, yes, it has bad things and good things, just like how we talked about with Vale, with Miami. Every big city is amazing. This is Chicago here. Like Chicago to me is so dear near to my heart. It will always be my hometown no matter what. And just Chicago is like you're basically experiencing the world at first hand. And I know for Casey, like leaving Youngstown in Ohio to come to Chicago was a big change.
Yeah.
But at any point, Casey, did you feel like coming out of Ohio to Chicago was like a huge step into your career?
Oh, 100%. Huge. I mean, just moving to the city was so overwhelming but exciting and it's like you said, it feels like a different world. It's so big and it's so much bigger than where I'm from, right? So to move to Chicago and get to look at the skyline from time to time and be like, "Oh my gosh, I live here." Like how cool. Like having that moment of reflection of being like, this is one of the coolest cities in the world. And my parents came to visit me recently and my dad was like, Chicago's beautiful. Like all the buildings, the Tribune Tower, all the like just seeing downtown from NBC is just like stunning. And so it was cool to have them here and they've been to Chicago before, but just we take it for granted sometimes because we live here, you know, remembering how freaking cool our city is. It's very exciting. So yeah, but it was overwhelming. I was like, oh my God, this is too big for me. I don't know my way around. I'm lost. It's confusing. It's expensive. And yeah, like you said, there's the bad and the good. And that's everywhere. I love it here. I don't want to leave.
No matter what happens, you guys, and no matter what occurs, that the next chapter of sports will be with you. Again, the city of Chicago, dear, 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 dear to leave and all the way up to my heart that Chicago is amazing for sure. So remember, as always, with the final reflection, never give up. Siga tus sueños. Para mis hermanos latinos igual. Sigue tus sueños. Sigue echándole ganas. Persistence, you keep with growth and you keep going. Persistence, you keep with growth and you keep going. And that's exactly what I will tell to you guys in this final reflection. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Kacy, thank you so much for being here on episode 30.
Thank you for having me. This was great. I loved it. I'm leaving inspired and I feel good about the day. So thank you for the time.
Así que we'll stick around with Kacy here, pero muchísimas gracias, you guys. And my phrase as always. And remember that the next chapter of sports will live on today, tomorrow, and forever. Y recuerden que el próximo capítulo de deportes seguirá hoy, mañana y siempre. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next time for episode 39 on the next chapter of sports. Hasta la vista. Bye-bye.